Hey everyone, James Wilson here with MTB Strength Training Systems and BikeJames.com, and today I'm going to share some tips to help you improve your hip hinge. I'm going to explain what the hip hinge is, why it's important both on and off the bike, where most people go wrong, and then share some ways to help improve it. So first, what is the hip hinge? The hip hinge is one of the basic human movement patterns, and what it is the ability to hinge from the hips and not use other parts of the body. So basically this is a good hip hinge. You'll notice I'm moving from the hips, my hips are pushing back behind my heels, my shoulders are coming down towards the ground, and my spine is staying neutral. I'm not moving at my lower back, I'm not rounding at my shoulders. You'll also notice I'm staying balanced over my feet. That's another important thing. You want to make sure you're keeping your weight in the middle of your foot. So as I make this movement, I don't want to feel a lot of weight either shifting back onto my heels, and I also don't want to feel a lot of weight going to my toes. So a good hip hinge is going to look like this. Now, why is it important for us? Well, first, off of the bike, this is a really important movement because this is literally learning how to lift with your legs and not with your lower back. And so you'll see I'm able to use my hips. My lower back is just stabilizing, so I'm not putting stress on it. So off of the bike, it's a really important movement for bending over to pick things up and being able to move and not hurt your lower back all the time. On the bike, it's critically important because it's how we're moving from our center of gravity, which is roughly here around the hips, while staying balanced on the bike. And so again, my ability to push my hips back and let my shoulders come down allows me to spread my weight out over my bike. I'm able to push my weight back, but keep some weight on the front. So I'm able to keep some weight on my handlebars. That's why I don't want to get too far back. I'm not getting too far forward. So it allows me to remain balanced on my bike and move from my hips. And it's really like the #1 movement pattern that you need to have down if you want to ride, well as a mountain biker. And good body position on the bike is where all skills start. If you don't have good body position, then you're going to struggle to do everything else on the bike. And so, and it all starts with a good hip hinge. And so, again, your ability to get down with also known as like this attack position on your bike is critically important. So if you can't do this off of your bike, then you're really going to struggle to do it on the bike as well. And so, again, the movement behind this is also what we're using to create the stomp when we're trying to jump or do bunny hops. And so a lot of critical movements come from this hip hinge and your ability to perform it correctly. So like I said, though, as important as it is, it's something that a lot of riders need to work on improving, and myself included, right? We're always trying to get a little bit better. But there are a couple ways that people mess this up, and it shows up on the bike in a couple of ways. And the first is that they're moving from their lower back. So they're bending over like this, and they're not really pushing the hips and moving from the hips. So they'll tend to move from the lower back. So they might get down like this, but then they'll bend over and they'll be in some position like this, and you can see a strong round in the lower back. And this is not a good hip hinge. Your weight isn't spread out. You're moving from the lower back and not the hips. It's not a good position to be. But there's another position that people get into that also messes this up, and that is keeping your chest up. So you'll see a lot of people who will push their butt back, and they'll keep what looks like a neutral lower back position, but they keep their chest up like this. And so you'll see my spine isn't long, it's not straight. There's definitely a difference between this position and this position. And so you see this a lot. I see a lot of riders out there in this position here where they don't really have their chest down in this long spine when they're in their hip hinge. They've got their butt back, but they've got their chest up like this. And again, that's not a strong hip hinge position. And so your balance is going to be off. Your movement from that position is going to be off. And so you need to make sure that you own that position. So what I'm going to do now is show you a couple of movements that will help refine that movement, and then give you a couple ideas how you can use it to enhance your training and riding as well. So first is going to be a stick. Well, you can do this with or without the stick. It's basically the same movement. And a lot of it just depends on your shoulder mobility and where you're at with it. So You know, realistically, I like to start with the stick movement and then move to the body weight. But again, if you find that the stick is a little tough, then you just want to do the body weight version, that's fine. But this one here I really like because I get this set on my back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a hip hinge. And I'm going to push my butt back, and I'm going to let my chest come down. And when I'm down as low as I can go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the stick. Basically, like if I was doing a shoulder press over my head, I'm going to push it straight out over my head. And I want my ears to end by my biceps. And then I keep it in that position, and I come up. And I come back down. I bring myself down, and I press, and then I come back up. So this movement right here is great for a couple of reasons. The first is, if I don't come down in the right position, I'm not going to be able to perform this press, okay? So if I do this here, right here, you can tell immediately, right? Like my weight is not on my feet. So just getting in this position here forces me to push my butt back a little bit more to stay balanced on my feet. And then as I press forward, what you're going to find is, if I'm in this position here, it's going to be impossible. I cannot press this. I have to be in this long, neutral spine position for me to be able to press this out and then come back up. So again, coming down and pressing and looking for length, distance between my tailbone and my hands, the stick. So I'm not only pressing my hands out, but I'm sitting my butt back and then coming back up and down. And so again, you can do this with the hands in this position as well, right? So coming down, pressing out, coming back up, coming down, pressing out, coming back up. So, you know, you can use this movement, narrow stance, wide stance. I can get into like a pedal stance on, like I would be on my bike, and perform this movement to get me into that hip hinge position. But again, you'll find that if you're not in that, you know, if your chest is up, you're not gonna be able to press over your head. And as I press over my head, if I'm leaning forward, right? So say I do come down and I round up my lower back a little bit. As I press my hands out, I tip forward. Like it really, pressing my hands out really exaggerates the imbalance that you get at your feet if you don't sit your hips back. And so again, that pressing the hands out forces the body, if you're trying to maintain that balance on your feet, it's going to force the body to figure out how to shift the hips back while keeping the spine long and letting the shoulders come down and not having the chest up. And so again, that's what we're looking for. That's the holy grail when it comes to the hip hinge, both on and off of the bike. So I like to use this in my training. Actually, again, I use it as part of my warm-up, and then I'll also use it when I'm doing deadlifts to help get set up. So for example, if I was doing some kettlebell deadlifts here, you know, instead of just coming down and, you know, just doing all my reps, what I'll do is I'll get set. I'll come down, press out, come down and get my weight. Now I'm ready to go. And again, I can go from there, or I can reset. I actually like to just reset between each deadlift, like so. So again, you can do that with any, you know, deadlift variation to help set the spine and your hip hinge. And you know, you can also do this before you get on a bike as part of your warm up. Or I mean, I've literally, you know, the old from Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi's talking to Daniel. He's balancing on the boat. He's like, man, balance good, karate good, balance bad, may as well stay home, right? So we've all had those days on the trail where you feel like, man, my karate is bad right now. I don't know what's going on. 9 times out of 10, your balance is off. And since your hip hinge is one of those central movements to your balance, like literally, I've had rides where I've been off, feeling way off with my ride, and I get off my bike, just, okay, got to set here, do a few hip hinges just to get myself set, right? Just going through it. You know, now I'm adding these in, this little movement here, and get back on my bike, and things feel different. So, you know, again, a lot of us just like to drive to the trailhead, you jump out of your car, you grab your bike, and you just get going. And yeah, we don't need a big elaborate warm up, but doing a few movements like this before you jump on your bike to just help get the body set, get the work out any kinks that you might have from sitting too much or the drive over, whatever it is, and just get that nervous system primed for moving properly right off the bat. It's going to help your riding and everything else. So anyway, so that's it. Excuse me. Hopefully give you some ideas on things you can do to help improve your hip hinge, as well as really hammer home the importance of this movement. Like, you cannot call yourself a mountain biker and not own this movement and be actively working. Like, this is your basic, kata from if you're in karate, or just like, your basic arm bar from, doing jujitsu. Like, this is one of those basic things that, you need to be working on from white belt to black belt. So it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're just starting or whether you've been riding for 10 years, you still need to be working on making sure that you've got this hip hinge down, you've got it stress proofed through good strength and conditioning, and that you're focusing on how you're applying it on the trail and using it as that, kind of platform for all of your other skills and things that you're doing on your bike. So really important movement, but yeah, hopefully these tips will help you clean it up and help your training and your riding. And because yeah, that's really what it's all about. So if you got any questions or thoughts on this, post them in the comments and I'll get to them as soon as I can. You can also hit me up at james@bikejames.com. I'm always happy to help out. Anything to do with training, riding, just helping you improve any way that I can, here to help out. And yeah, make sure you visit bikejames.com. Got a bunch of other training tips and free workouts and things that you can check out there. But anyways, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this tip or these training tips, and I'll talk to you guys next time.